Who am I?
Richard Kazimer, media veteran.
Why I got in radio is because I'm good with a knife.
Contributor in Perth, Australia.
Our friend Richard Kazimer in the United States.
How are you guys enjoying the 19th century? Is that working out for you? How can you say, I'm not making fun of you as a race, I'm making fun of you as black performers?
I think as a country, Americans are as patriotic as the most rabid UK football hooligan.
Who am I?
Richard S. Kazimer. I still haven't worked out while we play Mission Impossible, the theme for Richard Kazimer, our friend from the United States, because I'm figuring we've never once sent him off and given him a task that we could describe honestly as Mission Impossible. That would be a fair statement, wouldn't it, Richard?
You know, there's not much that I can't do, won't do for the right amount of money. So impossible or not, I give it my best shot.
I know it's the 5th of July here, but where you are it is the 4th of July, so I'd like to wish you a happy 4th of July.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yep, you're a Yankee Doodle Dandy, are you?
Yes, I am.
I would have thought you were more of a Rebby, you know that?
I'm sorry, a what?
A Rebby, a rebel.
Oh, heavens, no.
Oh, okay.
We won that skirmish.
Yes, you very much did win that whole skirmish. Hey, one thing that to those of us outside the United States, look, sometimes to be fair, it's probably painted in a not so complimentary light internationally, but one thing that has always been patently obvious is that Americans are, or at least appear to be, extremely patriotic. And I've always had a theory that part of that's come from the fact that, as far as I can see, from the cradle to the grave, you are told that America is great. Is that a fair assessment, or am I sort of getting a warped impression?
It's true. We do get that kind of hammered in our head, and have been for generations, that America is the greatest country on earth. And of course, we know it's not. Every country is a great country to everyone who lives there. We know we are what we are, but I don't think we profess ourselves, at least anymore, to being any greater than anyone else. As far as patriotism is concerned, I think as a country, Americans are as patriotic as the most rabid UK football hooligan. But it's... I think that as individuals, maybe not so much. Granted, all it takes is our greatest American superhero and Lake Como, Italy resident George Clooney to merely suggest we Americans all come together to raise some money for natural disaster relief. But I think singularly we hold our national pride pretty close to our bumper stickers.
One of the things that always seems patently obvious when it comes to patriotism is that Americans love to fly their flag. The Stars and Stripes. If nothing else, Americans seem to be proud of what that represents.
Oh, yes, indeed. During our little dust-up in declaring our independence from Great Britain in 1776, which is what today is all about, America didn't have a flag. Usually the soldiers of the original 13 colonies held up signs depicting King George III wearing a turban or a Hitler mustache to goad the British Army into battle. And it wasn't until George Washington was on his way home from one of these battles that remembered he had forgotten to buy his wife Martha a wedding anniversary gift. So he commissioned seamstress Betsy Ross to make a quilt. Now, Ross was pressed for time because he needed this thing done in a couple of hours, and the only materials she had were a duvet cover, shower curtain, and some tea towels. And because dry cleaning hadn't been invented yet, when George brought the quilt home, Martha immediately hung it out from the White House bedroom, and then, being the affluent people that they were, it just caught everyone's attention, and everyone started replicating hanging their sheets out the window, and therefore that's where we get hanging the flag out.
Is that where that came from? Here I was thinking you did this simply because you might have had a flag, but you didn't have a flag pole,
The pole came later, and the colors, too, of the flag are also significant to the 4th of July celebration. The white signifies linen, and since mass deforestation for paper products hadn't started yet here in the U.S., we still used fine china and linen tablecloths at picnics, so that's where the white comes from. Blue is for blueberry pies. Apple and cherry pies are traditionally served with ice cream, and since, of course, we didn't have refrigeration in 1776, the deliciously standalone blueberry pie was the dessert of choice. So that's where the blue comes from. And red is a symbol of ketchup, which is, of course, our national condiment.
Yep.
And the stars on the flag represent the inevitable stars that one sees after imbibing in too much grog on a hot summer day. So that's the way it is. And Chris, each state state actually has its own flag. Did you know that?
Yeah, we do here too.
Having your own flag was a priority whenever a territory was granted statehood, and you needed to create a flag for the locals to wave at the sporting events. Now, back in the 1700s, the national sport was the Native American game called Bagatawe, which was later named lacrosse by the French.
Ah!
Yeah, they were sent here by Napoleon Bonaparte for our truffles. And lacrosse was actually named after French clothing designer Émile Lacrosse, who was famous for his line of polo shirts with a snapping turtle logo.
Ah.
State flags consist of three main items. If you look at any U.S. state flag, there's always three main items on the flag. The state bird, preferably edible, a state animal, also preferably edible, and a rough-drawn caricature of an early settler either holding a musket or a farm tool.
Oh, okay.
It was also considered classy to add a phrase in Latin on the flag, but since nobody spoke Latin in colonial America, they usually lifted a few random words from the Central Nervous System chapter of Gray's Anatomy. Now, the newer the state, the more modern the flag's graphics became. For example, Hawaii, which is our 50th state, has an outboard motor as part of the state emblem.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, at the very least, you needed an outboard motor to get there.
Yeah, so it's true. Now, some of the southern states still insist on flying the Confederate flag, the stars and bars, as it's called.
I'm aware of that, yes.
Yeah, even though they did lose the Civil War, one of the most divisive periods in American history. Now, the Civil War flag, the stars and bars, is a symbol of treason, pro-slavery, presidential assassination, and yet these throwbacks long for the melancholy days of fine sipping whiskey, lynching, and marrying one's cousin.
You missed out something really important here.
Yes, sir.
Moonshine.
Yes.
You didn't mention moonshine.
Moonshine and fine sipping whiskey is the same thing over here, my friend.
Thanks for telling me.
In all seriousness, to the rest of America, the Confederate flag is equivalent to flying the Turkish flag on Anzac Day in Australia.
I take your point, because what you're talking about is it's a symbolism of a fight against a part of American history that, to be honest, if you could, you'd rather forget.
We would like to forget it. The few folks down in the South wouldn't. Being a political issue, even the political parties have flags. The Republicans use a lumbering, obese elephant to depict its platform of excessive government spending. The Democrats use a jackass as a symbol, which needs no explanation. The Zero Government Libertarian Party uses the no symbol, the circle with a diagonal line running through.
Oh, yeah.
And the always dazed and confused anti-everything teabag party uses a transdermal patch for its insignia.
Now, what about things on the 4th of July? I'm thinking about the parallels to our Australia Day. We have lots of fireworks shows and stuff like that. It's a day of outdoorsy stuff because, of course, it happens in our summer. You see people driving around with flags on their cars and all that sort of stuff. What sort of things would we see if we went around the average American city on the 4th of July?
Well, this is one of the few American holidays that the date doesn't change from year to year to guarantee either a Friday or a Monday off. It's also the day where we cook more processed meat on open flames, drink more amber-colored liquid, and blow more things up than any country in the world on this single day, except, of course, for China and Paraguay, but for different reasons. On the 4th of July, you would see festivities galore, a lot of fireworks at sundown, barbecues, picnics, parades. If you've got two cars to follow each other, that's reason enough to have a parade. Everybody lines up in the streets. Everybody is in support of their local town parades and their local town festivities. If you want to look at real Americana and look at real patriotism, look no further than in the eyes of a child and of an old veteran on the 4th of July, and that's what it's all about.
And I take it that on the 4th of July, like, for example, at the moment, your schools, I take it, because it's the height of your summer, of course, I take it your schools and things like that are on holidays, on their summer break?
School is out. It's a national holiday. It's a great time. We're right in the middle of summer right now, so everyone's having a good time.
Do people go away much on the 4th of July?
Yes, they do. If you're close to the ocean, like here in Massachusetts, the Cape is a big draw, Cape Cod. There are any number of lakes. I tell you, there's nothing like staying at home and walking a few blocks up to Main Street, USA, and watching your parade.
I take it those parades can be found just about anywhere from the smallest country town all the way through to the largest cities, I take it.
Oh, absolutely. And what's great, too, is in these small communities, you can actually hear the high school marching band of the next town between your high school marching band going a few blocks down the road. You can then hear the next town over. You can hear their parade if it's going on at the same time. And if you have a good vantage point, you can just turn your head all points of the compass and see all the other towns doing their fireworks at the same time. You never miss a thing.
Actually, when you talk about things like fireworks, is it still legal in your country for people to have fireworks and set them off themselves, or must they be handled by suitably controlled pyrotechnicians?
It depends on what state you're in. Massachusetts has a very strict fireworks law. Legally, you cannot possess your own fireworks here in Massachusetts. If you cross the border into New Hampshire, you can. So you've got a lot of people from Massachusetts who'll just drive across the state line, pick up a couple of tons of fireworks, and then bring them back. Unless somebody gets hurt, nobody cares. It's kind of hard to bust somebody for these. Down south, fireworks are just a way of life. You can buy fireworks in supermarkets. Here, it's a little more restricted. But when you've got the real big fireworks displays, when towns put on, they hire professionals to do that, and that's the right way to do it.
You know, the thing that amazes me, of course, I would imagine that this time of the year being the height of summer is also the height of your fire risk season. Doesn't anyone ever get really concerned about the prospect of people setting off their own fireworks?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They must have started fires at some time, haven't they?
Especially when sending off bottle rockets. That is a concern, and that's why, I would never advocate having your own fireworks. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. If you've got M80s and things like that, firecrackers that actually just blow up and make a noise, that's fine. Those things generally don't set fires. The fuse might, but when the bottle rockets go up, if they're not allowed to go high up and explode, and then the embers burn out before they touch the ground, if they go horizontal, you could set things off.
Yeah, that's always a concern. What about lots of people have flags on their cars and things like that during 4th of July celebrations? Because I can imagine that there must be a few people who get out in their cars and do a fair bit of driving.
Fewer now that a lot of the cars don't have radio antennas anymore. Everything's built into the windshield. So now we've got these magnets that you stick on your car to support the troops thing, the yellow ribbons and the pink ribbons and the magnetic things. There's a flag everywhere. Everybody pulls out the flag. The first sign of good weather, right across the street from me here, the folks next door have a huge flag that's as big as a king-size mattress. So it's good. It's fine.
Yeah. So I wonder if you've ever... I must send you some photographs of the way that people hang flags off their cars here. They sit in the centre pillars. They can sit in the centre pillars.
I've seen these little clip-on deals where you can clip it onto your window, your side window.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But again, the way cars are made now, the cars are so seamless that there's really nothing to hang it on to anymore. So people have a preference to go with those magnets that seem to do the trick.
Yeah. Anything else about the 4th of July celebrations? Is there anything in those celebrations? I mean, we all have different ways of celebrating, and I guess in many respects, I suppose some of the ways we go about celebrating Australia Day might have been some ideas that people actually took from things like 4th of July celebrations. But for the benefit of those of us outside of the US, when you talk about the 4th of July, is there something that is what you would term uniquely American that is always found somewhere in 4th of July celebrations?
Hot dogs. They're called road flares. There's natural casing hot dogs. And then there's a brand of hot dog over here that is bright red, and it looks like a road flare. And it is so packed with red dye number 2, and it tastes awful. And yet people love those red hot dogs. And in my world travels, I have never seen meat that looked like this on purpose. I think that is so indicative of the USA at 4th of July, and particularly in the summer, is those bright red hot dogs.
It sounds to me like something that you could only describe as perfectly contained ADD to go.
This is true. This is true.
Anyway, my friend, as always, a pleasure to talk to you. I guess I should also wish you a happy 4th of July again, and indeed to all our American friends, because, of course, right now it is still the 4th of July in America. And don't forget, if you'd like to be Richard's friend on Facebook, all you need to do is look up Richard S. Kazimer. Kazimer is spelled Kazimer, and just click, I want to be your friend, and Richard will accept everybody apart from Jack the Ripper, Ted Bundy, and Son of Sam. Richard S. Kazimer is who you need to look up. And speaking of Richard S. Kazimer, thank you, my friend.
All right, brother. Go USA.